So you still don't accept the tragedy of the commons is real and touches our lives? Pay attention. Look around. The European Union is fragmenting. Those once proud social democratic countries are probably afloat and not fighting each other because the ECB is buying lots of worthless debt from debtor nations with fiat money, much like our own central bank, the Federal Reserve. Japan is in severe fiscal trouble. Even China seems to be in danger and worried about political stability. Within our own country, conditions degrade at all levels. The U.S. economy is in decline and has been for decades, for reasons to include demographics, global economic competition, congressional tax, spend, and regulatory consequences, federal fiscal policy, and monetary intervention by the Federal Reserve. Cracks in the social fabric and body politic are forming everywhere. We can see this in municipal bankruptcies, poor employment prospects, average wage declines, high food stamp participation, low labor participation, federal deficits, and debt. Even municipal bankruptcy, practically unheard of not long ago, strikes at increasing frequency. Some examples of the tragedy include Detroit, Chicago, Puerto Rico, Orange County, California, the city of Hicksville, Kentucky, city of San Bernardino, California, town of Mammoth Lake, California, city of Stockton, California, Jefferson County, Alabama, city of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, city of Central Falls, Rhode Island, Boise County, Idaho, Central Falls, Rhode Island, Vallejo, California, Jefferson County, Alabama, Stockton, California, and more. Others are near bankruptcy. We have fiscal problems here in New York as well. New York has been ranked 46th of the 50 states in overall fiscal solvency. Illinois is dead last at 50. Here's a quote. Recent examination of how local governments across the state fare relative to key fiscal health indicators reveals some troubling facts. Nearly 300 local governments ended fiscal year 2010 or 2011 or both in a deficit situation. This is from the Office of the State Controller. You may have heard about fiscal control boards, such as the Municipal Assistance Corporation. Which kept New York City from defaulting on its debts back in the 70s. Well, in addition to 24 fiscally stressed municipalities, our comptroller de Napoli said 18 communities have been listed as, quote, under review. In the Capital District area, these include the town of Clemens, St. Lawrence County, Franklin County, the City of Albany, Fulton, Fishkill, Colony, Little Falls, Herkimer, German Flats, Herkimer, St. Lawrence, and then there are public schools. On January 16th of 2014, Dinopoly indicated 87 school districts in fiscal distress. Some around here include the City of Albany, Corinth, Saratoga, Queens, Herkimer, Franklin, and their public authorities. Their most admired ability by New York state and local governments is to circumvent strict public debt limits in the New York State Constitution. 583 authorities in New York by purpose and source of accountability exist. Two function with the greatest number of authorities are housing, of which there are 192, and economic development with 173 authorities. Transportation, the area in which authorities were first used, now has 54 different entities. Particularly troubling about backdoor debt is that a significant amount has been used to cover the state's operating expenses rather than for capital investments. For example, the proceeds of the local government assistance corporation's debt, now $4.6 billion, were used to make aid payments to school districts and localities, effectively converting the state's annual short-term borrowing from these aid payments into long-term debt. The process of the proceeds of the Tobacco Settlement Financing Corporation's borrowings, $4.5 billion, were used to help cover deficits in the state's fiscal year 2003, 2004, 2005 operating budgets. Some borrowing by Urban Development Corporation was used to purchase assets from the state, the proceeds of which were applied to the state's operating budget. For example, in the early 1990s, over $300 million was raised with the sale of Attica Prison, certain roadways to the Thruway Authority, and the parking lot at the Aqueduct Raceway to the Port Authority. Some New York has used its authorities to borrow for wrong reasons and to incur too much debt, with the situation getting worse over time. This puts the state in danger zone and contributes to uncompetitive tax burdens. Who's to blame for this staggering load of debt and the threat that it poses to the state's economic health? The chief culprits are all too familiar: New York's ever-expanding public authorities and the politicians and interest groups in Albany who benefit from their profligate ways. This according to the Manhattan Institute. Some offending authorities include the New York Racing Association, which is facing insolvency. Public housing in New York reaches a fiscal crisis. Metropolitan Transportation Authority. So, just as there are municipal control boards, there are now also public authority control boards to keep public authorities from defaulting on their debt. Some of the agencies overseen by the Public Authority Control Board include the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, the New York State Housing Finance Agency, the New York State Medical Care Facility Finance Agency, the Dormitory Authority, New York State Urban Development Corporation, Job Development Authority, Battery Park City Authority, the New York State Project Finance Agency, the State of New York Mortgage Agency, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, Long Island Power Authority. All these serious problems resulted because government wasted too much money buying votes and paying for favors. All these problems were caused by Democrats and Republicans. Libertarians had nothing to do with creating the awful mess we, the people, now find ourselves in. Libertarians need to tell this message because other political parties can't.